Hello all, this is John from EastCoastArmory.com, and I'm here today with this Project Start video of this 1/6 scale static M4A3 105mm Sherman tank. For this build, the base kit I will be using will be this old 1/6 scale static M4A3 late from JD. For those who are unaware, this kit was released by the action figure customizer James DeSimone back in 2003 and 2004. These kits were primarily designed for the action figure collector in mind, not necessarily for the detailed model maker. However, the one thing that this tank does give you is that it gives you a pretty decent hull and turret, which makes a great base to start off to building your project. When these kits were first being delivered, they were supplied you with the turret, the hull, a very basic set of VVSS suspension, a very basic set of rubber band type tracks, and some very basic upper hull detail components. The material that the kits were made of is a material called rotomolded plastic. This plastic is typically seen on gas containers and large outdoor storage shed boxes, and even large ride-on children's toys. The material itself is very strong, very durable, and will not crack or break, which I will show you in this quick demonstration. As we can see, the turret has absolutely no damage on it whatsoever from the impact when I threw it on the floor. Now obviously, this will not be the case after the model is fully built. This is just a demonstration to show you the rigidity of the material. The material itself allows you to have a nice hollow casting and is very light. This kit in this condition right now weighs about 10 to maybe 15 pounds. Obviously, once the detail components and the running gear get added, the weight is going to increase by about another 10 or 15 pounds or so. The material itself I find to be very workable. I could sand it, cut it, and grind it to any way I would like. And I've had success in the past with building these models made out of this medium. Due to the molding procedure, rotomold is not necessarily a good medium to work with for making crisp detailing. As you can see, all the molding and detailing is a little bit rough, and mostly all of it will not be used and will be deleted and replaced with better detailing from EastCoastArmory.com and other part manufacturers. On these kits, these supply detail components were actually part of the hull casting itself. Being rotomold and hollow, in these areas here where you would have to remove would actually contain some of the detail components. This was done to not only the turret ring, but also the tank's lower hull. As you can see, we have a large gaping hole on the bottom. This entire floor is going to be plated over, which layers of sheet styrene, and detailing will be added on top of that. On the lower hull, you originally had several components like these over here. This is kind of an example of what you would get with the kit. This is the mantlet and the mantlet rotor drum. As we can see, they were originally molded into the hull like that, and you would have to cut them out and use them yourself. These details that came with the kit were very crude and rough, and pretty much none of them I will be using on this build. Also on the lower hull, we can see these three rectangles here. These here were the indications of where you would put the VVSS bogey wheel. On a real Sherman tank, this here would all be straight and flush. And this here would have a recess because of being the transmission cover. Transmission cover would have a recess where it met the hull. Now on my model, this here will be plated over and be made nice and flush, but I will keep the recess here because as per the real vehicle. Also, if we see, the rear wall has these two large chunks here molded into it. These chunks here were to be where you would mount the rear axles for the rear return roller. On this build, I will amputate this entire rear section here and replace it with better detail components. At the time this kit was developed, none of the detail components that are currently on the 1/6 scale market existed, which explains why the tank has these type of features built into it. On the tank's upper hull, we will see here that the hatch locations also need to be reworked. On the real Sherman, these oval hatches open out and forward. However, on this kit, they only open in this direction, which is incorrect. This area will have to be reworked. Fortunately, I developed resin replacement hatches when I finished my last Sherman. The tank's front, we will see the tank's fenders and transmission cover. Tank's fenders are very clunky and will not be used. I will be replacing them with my own sheet metal ones. On the tank's rivet strip, we can see that is very incorrect for a Sherman tank. The rivet strip looks like the master is made out of a piece of diamond plate with holes drilled into it. This will not do, and I have a replacement resin rivet strip that was custom tailored for this type of vehicle. Moving up, we can see the armored air filter and the fuel caps. These fuel caps will be replaced with functional detail conversions later on. Here's a quick example of the air filter. As you can see, a lot of plastic over here is molded in towards the sides of it, and that there is supposed to be the fire extinguisher box, as well as another fuel cap. All these pieces will be removed and reworked. On the deck here, we could see the molded in engine grill. Engine grill detailing ain't too bad, but I will be making my grill functional, which means I will cut it out, and I will also replace this area here. Moving on to the tank's turret, we could see again the same basic detailing that we've seen throughout the rest of the build. This here is supposed to be the loader's periscope. There's the gunner's armored periscope box, and the air cleaner. Air cleaner ain't too bad. I'm only going to replace the center portion of it with the inner section of the air filter. This here is for the loader's hatch, and this here is the split ring copula. The copula will be replaced with one of my later version single hatch copulas with interior detailing. This here is the well for the MP48 spring antenna base, and this here is the secondary antenna base mount. This turret is supposed to illustrate a late production high bustle turret. However, I feel that this bustle here is a little too fat and could be lowered about 1/4 of an inch at most. This here, molded in, is supposed to be the shell ejection port. I have most of these parts I have replacements for, and they will be added to the vehicle. Another piece of detail that I will be adding to this turret will be the molded in or casted in cheek armor that is present on these late war 75mm turrets. This will be built up with layers of plastic and bodywork and will actually extend this portion here of the turret. As we can see, the turret has a symmetrical appearance, and afterwards it will be asymmetrical with more armor on this side. Fortunately for these kits, I already have most of the detail components and the molds on hand, so creating the castings is not going to require too much time. The only machining that I will be making to this kit will be the addition of the 105mm gun components, which would be the gun manlet and rotor, the barrel, and also the rear air filter and 105mm pintle mount. All these pieces will be machined and fabricated later. And that concludes this project start video for this 1/6 scale M4A3 105mm Sherman tank. Visit eastcoastarmory.com for more projects and more updates on this vehicle as well as my other builds. Thank you.